We are live. Hopefully live in group.
Hopefully we can all be heard.
So I am just going to squeeze over there. So we've got nobody joining just yet, so we need to figure out. Just going to wait a few minutes. We've got a couple of people that I'm going to ping over and allow in. So I'm going to let Alex in. I'm going to approve Ben. I'm going to approve Nicola. Right. So, right, okay. We've got a few people popping up. Harry, can you say hello? And can everybody let me know if they can hear Harry?
Hello. Can everyone hear me?
So I've got Harry on Skype because he's socially isolating. So although the name thing says both of us are here, let me just change that because he's not here at all. But he is here really. He's hiding in the back.
Yes, I can hear myself. That's good. Okay, I have myself on the phone just to check.
So that is a bit weird. Right, okay. I am going to go through a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to figure out how to do on the fly a little bit here. So this will be interesting. And I've got the dog chewing a cup on the floor. So let's see where we go. Let us switch over. How many people have we got? Oh, quite a few. Oh, hello everybody. So first week of working from home, first week of school kids at home. How's everybody doing? You'll have to, if you want to comment so that we can see your comments, you'll have to accept the eCam tool that then allows you to publish and let us know your name. Otherwise it comes up with a Facebook person who's posting stuff, but we don't know who you are, which makes it very difficult to then see who's saying what, when, where and how. So right, I am going to switch to my screen so I can screen share my Chrome. Hopefully you can all see that. And I'm going to then expand it and go through what we know so far about these financial measures. So I can see me in the bottom. I'm just going to move me out of the way because I'm right in the way there. Okay, so what do we know so far about the government's financial measures? We're going to talk about how to safeguard your business now. We're going to talk about some of the COVID-19 government initiatives. We're going to talk about what's available so far and how to access them. Now, do bear in mind that everything is changing daily, so we'll keep you up to date with what's changing and how it changes as it changes. We're going to have a look at the government grants, what's available and how we can access those. We're going to have a look at the loans, particularly the business interruption loan. How does it work and how do we apply? We're going to look at the 14-day SSP and the 80% coronavirus staff retention scheme. So what is that? And then there's been lots of concern by business owners, the self-employed and the director shareholders about where do they stand, what about them? So I'm going to answer what we know about those questions as well. So if you do have any questions, ping them up in the group as we go along. Having said that, I'm not sure I can actually see them now. I'm screen sharing. So Harry, if you can keep an eye on anything. Have you got your iPad in front of you?
Yeah, I've got all sorts of devices in front of me.
That's really good. So you're more prepared than I am. I've got the presentation, but I've got no iPad. So I'm Lisa. Most of you know me. Chartered Management Accountant, MBA, Prince 2. And love rock music, love Marmite. I'm vegetarian. I don't like the word can't, even in these horrendous circumstances. And my goal was to be a digital nomad. Now it's just staying alive, isn't it? And let's do what we can to stay alive, survive, and get out of this extraordinary situation in one piece at the end. So Harry, I've still got you as a part qualified, but you're not.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I'm not part qualified. I'm a fully qualified chartered management accountant, practicing on the SEMA. As for a little bit about me, I absolutely love animals. I love chocolate, which is not helpful in self-isolation right now. Major carnivore. which is contradictory to saying I love animals. And there's not a lot I dislike, although actually self-isolation is not the most enjoyable experience overall. But hey, what do you do?
Well, it's better than the alternative, looking at the news. So
Yeah, exactly that.
What can you do now to protect your business? How has business changed? It's astonishing what has changed overnight. So for some, it's business as usual, but different. For some, there is a huge opportunity to take your business online and to really shine. For some, it's going to be tough, but they're going to survive. And for some, it's absolutely devastating, and business as they know it has dried up overnight. So the first thing we need to do is establish which one of us, and I rather suspect a lot of us probably fit in one bracket, but maybe we could move into another if we learn how to do things differently.
Yep, exactly
Your
that.
client probably has the same problem that they did last week, and I say probably because I do appreciate that that's not true for everybody. But that same problem is different. It's evolved. It's moved on. It's how you're going to approach it is different, and some of them have got worse problems than they had before. So the majority of our clients, for example, will continue with some semblance of business as usual. Some need to change the way they're thinking, and some of them have completely lost everything overnight, and now the landscape is different, so they need to think differently. So we all need to think differently, we need to act differently, and we need to serve differently. So our clients are out there, they're still there, but they're at home. So what do they need? How can we help them? How can we continue to do what we do, but do it better, do it more efficiently, do it online, and how can we serve our clients? And again, I do appreciate that that's not entirely accurate for everybody. It may be different, there may be other issues going on, but ultimately we all have a skill to sell. So how can we sell that? How can we help our customers?
And in
So
the meantime, we should be looking at leaning our business,
yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. So the first thing to do is to lean our business. So Harry, do you want to walk us through this slide?
Yeah, I can. So essentially, we're looking to trim out any of the fat which is actually there. We want to cut and conserve cash. So perform a client audit. Have a look at the clients you do have in place at the moment and address who you can help and how you can help them. Bear in mind that some of the threats of the external environment have changed. There are opportunities within your existing clients which you may be able to address. So review those, review your overheads, and see if there's anything you can do with those, and cancel any direct debits to HMRC. Now, they have mentioned they're going to be a bit more lenient with arrangements to pay. Best way to control your cash, cancel those direct debits so you're in full control.
Yeah,
Drop
pay
any
what you can
essential,
when you can.
Yep, pay what you can when you can. Drop any non-essential tasks. Drop any non-essential costs, and also support other small businesses. I mean, we're all in the same boat here. And if you have an issue with this coronavirus, which many businesses will have, they may well be having the same problem as well. So do support other businesses. It may be worth delegating and outsourcing if you do need support in areas where actually you think, okay, I could do with taking away some time from there. And also contact your banks. Start talking about mortgage holidays and arranging those if you need those. Payment holidays as well, so with lenders. And you might be able to freeze credit card percentage loan interest, and you might be able to freeze loan interest as well. Now, there's other things you could do, but this is just to give you a little bit of a feel for some of the things you can be addressing.
Yeah,
Um,
now I have
really,
noticed that a lot of people, some people are finding that they are able to freeze credit card interest and loan interest. Some people aren't. So lenders are favouring a holiday where you still owe the money, but it's being deferred or maybe added on to the end of your loan or added on to the end of the mortgage, but not necessarily freezing the interest rate. So that's not the same as a mortgage holiday. So watch out for that. If you are in financial distress, I think people are being more helpful than they would have been otherwise. But if you can pay, you should pay, I think is the message from lenders and the government.
and also, I'd like to apologise in advance, Lisa, if I end up talking over you. I've got about 3 second delay.
Oh, right, okay. No worries.
So I'll prevail.
Okay, so what do we know about the COVID-19 financial measures? What has the government announced already? So the initiatives are all aimed at helping those adversely impacted by COVID-19. And what I have noticed is a huge wave of people, accountants and financial advisors who themselves have strong businesses or whose client have strong businesses that are focused on making claims and trying to get what they keep calling free cash from the government instead of serving those customers. And I'm not sure that's the right way to go about it. If you're in financial distress or if your business is going to be in financial distress, then of course these measures are here to help you. But if you're not going to be in financial distress and you're expecting your business to continue as usual or as usual but different, then hopefully you don't need these measures. You wouldn't want to take advantage of these measures, and let's move on and just focus on improving our businesses and growing our businesses and serving our clients.
Yep, true words that. So if you are looking towards a mortgage holiday, all mortgage holders will basically be adversely affected by COVID-19. But you can apply now for a payment holiday, and at present it's a 3-month payment holiday. Now it does vary with different providers, so there are some who obviously it may affect your interest going forward if you do have the payment holiday. There are others who add it to the end of the term, so there's all sorts of variation. And in most cases, the interest is still accruing on the overall mortgage balance. But this has been extended to the residential buy-to-lets. So that's really good news for those people who are buying to let, as well as the homeowners who have their personal mortgages. But at the moment, it does not apply to commercial mortgages, and most lenders' phone lines are absolutely overwhelmed with calls. So some lenders may be asking borrowers to actually apply online. So I would consider the process, and actually if you start the process sooner rather than later, you're more likely to have success, because I'm not entirely sure how long the process is taking to go through at the moment. Do you have any idea, Lise?
I don't know. So some people are getting instantly through on their mortgage lenders. I've noticed that with mine, I got a text from Barclays last week saying, "Don't even bother to call us. We won't be answering calls. Staff have been sent home to, same as everybody else. They've got exactly the same issues." So Barclays have, like some other lenders, have actually put all of their applications online. So I did take a look yesterday afternoon, and it was very clear that the application is for people who are suffering financial distress, and you should only apply for a mortgage holiday if you're in financial distress or you're expecting to be in financial distress. So the question is, I suppose, for some businesses, everything looks right and fine as it is now, but it won't be for another month or two down the line that we actually start to get into financial difficulty. So do we stop paying our mortgage now and stockpile that cash just in case, or do we keep on going and hope that in a couple of months' time we can evolve, get better, do more in our businesses, keep serving our customers and keep our income coming in?
And that's actually save as much of that cash as possible if you do apply for a mortgage holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it depends also on the size of your mortgage and how big that is compared to the rest of your income. So my mortgage is quite small compared to the rest of my income, so I'm probably not going to bother. It's a waste of my time to be sitting there on the phone for goodness knows how long. I could probably be working harder and generating the income to pay for that mortgage instead, but that's not the same for everybody. So it all depends on what you can and can't do. Of course, while you're on the phone or while you're working from home, maybe it doesn't matter how long you're going to spend on hold. You just go through your list of costs, go from the highest cost first, work your way down, get rid of the non-essentials, get rid of the things that you really don't need, and maybe you don't need to put a mortgage holiday in place. Maybe you do. So all depends on individual circumstances. So let's have a look at income tax. Now, if you're a self-employed person, the income tax reliefs will apply to you. Any self-assessment payments due on account on the 31st of July 2020 have been deferred. It's an automatic offer. You don't need to call HMRC, and it's deferred to 31st of January 2021. Income tax refunds and repayments are still going to be paid by HMRC as usual. So the challenge is that this could create a mounting debt and make it harder to repay eventually. So whilst you might not want to pay that cash over on 31st of July, I would strongly recommend that you don't spend unless it's absolutely necessary. Move the money into a separate bank account, treat it as an interest-free loan if it's necessary for survival later. So don't pay it on the 31st of January, on the 31st of July 2020, that's fine, but don't spend it if you've already got it. Put the money aside and try and stockpile it. None of us really know how long this is going to go on for, or what the long-term impacts of this are going to be for us, both business-wise and personally, financially. So don't pay it, but don't spend it, is my message. And ultimately, it is payable by 31st of January 2021, so we don't want to, if we can possibly avoid it, have some cash relief now and then create a horrendous liability next year.
Definitely.
What
And
we
there is
can do is reduce our payments on account if we need to, if we think our business is going to generate less income for us for the next tax year. So that's something that you want to be having a conversation with your accountant for, and making sure that you're not paying any more tax than you need to in July when it's due.
And on the topic of tax, there's also plenty of arrangements in place for time to pay schemes. So if you are unable to pay existing and outstanding tax obligations, then this is one you can apply for. And also if you are in financial distress. Now you can call HMRC with these. So arrange, basically agree time to pay, see what they have available. They are actually much more generous with new arrangement to pay agreements.
Yeah, they're being super flexible.
Yes, so it's probably the most favourable you're going to get with arrangement to pay agreements. But if you have missed a tax payment, or you might miss your next payment due due to COVID-19, then please do call HMRC's dedicated helpline. The number is shown on screen, but just for reference, it's 0800 0159 559. And if you are worried about a future payment, please do call HMRC nearer the time. So at the moment, they'll be addressing the current issues. And when you do encounter the problem further down the line, it just helps spread their workload. Otherwise, they're going to be completely overwhelmed with what's going on. But there are huge rises in calls, and there are delays to answering the phone. And HMRC before, we're used to being on hold, but be exceptionally on as well.
So what else have we got? In VAT, this applies to all VAT registered entities where we don't have to pay any VAT for 3 months. So any VAT that is owed between the 20th of March 2020 to the 30th of June 2020 does not need to be paid. There's going to be no interest or penalty. It applies to all UK businesses regardless, and it's an automatic offer. You don't have to ring them and ask for them to have an arrangement to pay your VAT. So you do not need to call HMRC, and they're stressing that quite vehemently. However, that tax is still payable by the end of 2021 tax year. So that, presumably is April 21. Now the VAT refunds and repayments are going to be paid by HMRC as usual. The risk to us is mounting debt, as the VAT is still owed, but it's deferred. So again, I would highly recommend don't spend it unless absolutely necessary. Move it into a separate bank account to use as an interest-free loan if it's necessary for survival. So work on cutting your costs, growing your income, doing whatever you can to not use that money, and use that money if you absolutely necessary. And then it's payable by April 2021, or I suspect it's actually going to be due by 6th of April 2021. I also suspect that what will happen is this will change as people still can't pay the VAT as we get towards the end of the year. So assuming that things continue the way they are for a while, I think people are going to find themselves in quite financial, quite difficult financial circumstances, and the VAT bill is going to be the one that people struggle to pay.
Yeah, I think they're going to develop the relief for VAT.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those areas which is going to impact a lot of businesses.
Yeah, and I think this will constantly evolve and change. Now, we've also been offered rates relief, a 12-month business rates holiday, but only for businesses in the retail, hospitality, leisure and nursery industries. So it impacts shops, cafes, restaurants, drinking establishments, cinemas and live music venues, and the majority of those that were actually shut down last week. It also applies to hotels, guest and boarding premises and self-catering accommodation. So apparently you don't need to do anything. Rates bills are currently being updated and will be reissued, and they will write to you if you are eligible. Now, I don't know many people on this live this morning that are actually eligible, but if you are, they will write to you. Now, if you do need to conserve cash, we suggest you do cancel your direct debit for business rates if you think this applies to you. If it doesn't, then you don't need to do anything, of course. And if you're not in financial distress, do keep your payments up. Ultimately, I think if you're not in these industries and you're not likely to get rates relief, you want to keep paying them so that you don't get too much into arrears if you absolutely have to.
Yeah, just remember that funds will still be due.
Yeah. So next we have the Small Business Grant Scheme. This is relative for all businesses based in England that occupy a property that already has small business or rural rates relief. It's a one-off grant of 10k. I think it will be prorated in accordance with your small business rate relief percentage and the tapered relief. It's to help with the ongoing business costs, intending to help with those property costs such as rent, insurance and utilities. The risk again is that they don't write to you because allegedly we don't need to do anything and the local authority will write to us if we're eligible after the 1st of April 2020. So they are encouraging people not to ring them unless absolutely necessary. What I would say is if you think you might be entitled to this and they haven't spoken to you, do give them a call in a couple of weeks' time, sort of mid-April time.
Now, there's also the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. That's a little bit of a mouthful. So luckily abbreviated to CBILS, which is loans are available for businesses experiencing financial difficulty during the crisis. There's low interest rates, but these rates are to be confirmed.
Yeah.
And the government will guarantee 80% of the loan to the lender, although the borrower is still responsible for paying 100% of the debt. So the first 12 months, the interest is actually paid by the government, which is wonderful news for a lot of businesses during this time. Now, it's available to companies that have insufficient security to meet a lender's normal requirement, which is also exceptionally helpful. But the risk is that the lender offers you more expensive high street finance first. So they will suggest that actually you apply for other loan schemes first, and this is more of a secondary choice because it's so favourable. Now, if you can get a loan from a high street bank, then explore that route first. And as with any loan, there will be criteria to be applied, and these have not yet been announced. So we'll see what's happening with that. But it is available as of today, so you can apply from the 23rd of March. And you can access funds from accredited lenders and apply to your usual business bank as well. So there's a lot going on in this sector, and there's a lot to be aware of. But they are saying if you can get a loan from a high street bank first, then explore that route first.
Yeah, and I think the way this will work in practice is the phrase they used last week is that you will, from today, you will be able to walk into your bank and apply for a high street loan. So that's fine, so long as the banks are actually open. So I think what will happen is when you go into the bank, there'll be sort of fast track loan application procedures to walk through. And I think they will offer you one of their off-the-shelf products first. And if you fail to meet the criteria for that, then you'll be entitled to one of these British Bank government-backed loans. So I don't think it's going to be an easy application process, and although more businesses are likely to get them than would have done otherwise, not everybody will. You still have to have a viable and workable business at the end of this difficult situation. They're not just going to give cash out to everybody. Now, SSP. SSP is payable for all employers with less than 250 staff. It's effective from the 13th of March, and the changes are that SSP is now payable from day 1 to 14 for all of those people that are staying at home and cannot work due to the coronavirus. Now, you must, as an employer, maintain staff absent records, and you must, well, I say you must, a fit note is not necessarily required. An isolation notice, which is the alternative to the fit note, is available if you as the employer require it. So if your employee has symptoms of coronavirus, they can get this isolation notice from 111 online. They can get it from the NHS. I need to fix that typo there. They can get it from the NHS online if a person in your house has symptoms, but it's not the employee themselves that is sick. So it can be topped up by company sick pay if you want to. That's your choice as an employer. And the SSP rebate scheme is under development. So at the moment, we can pay it, but we can't recover it yet from HMRC. So the claims process is underway at the moment. It's being built. What we think will happen is that you'll just have to apply for it online. And I suspect it will be slightly different to SSP and SMP, which is SMP is offset against your future tax liabilities against any national insurance payable. I suspect this to be an online claim that you can physically claim back from HMRC through an online portal. That seems to be the route that they're going.
I would have thought so. I would have imagined that HMRC would be looking to give you the cash injection rather than the reduction in taxes ongoing.
I think so. So let me just have give you a quick overview of the coronavirus job retention scheme, because I think this is going to work in a similar way. So the coronavirus job retention scheme is for all employers that are laying off staff, and it's effective from the 1st of March to the 30th of June for all staff that are on payroll from the 28th of February. So if they're on payroll on the 28th of February and you've not paid them in March, and you're not planning to pay them in April, May or June, it will apply to all of those. Now, you can claim for 80% of wages up to £2,500 per month, and I suspect this is likely to be 80% of net wages, and it relates to furloughed staff. So it's really important to understand the definition of furloughed staff. Furloughed staff are those that are laid off but not sacked. They're still on payroll, but they're not working. So you've effectively sent them home on a 0 hours contract, or to do nothing, and you can't afford to pay them. So the risk is trying to cover the cash for the March 2020 payroll, because it's not going to be in place in time to give you the cash to support March payroll. So the rebate scheme is currently in development. It's only for designated staff that have been designated as furloughed workers. Those workers must be notified in writing to let them know of their change of status as a furloughed worker. Applications will be through an online portal, that much we do know, and we know that we'll have to upload a list of affected workers with employee details and their earnings. And we know that the government is planning to make those first payments by the end of April. So as I said, we've still got to cover March payroll for anybody who's furloughed. By the time it comes to April, we should have the cash from the government to do that. So what about you?
Nice.
This is where the lag's getting a bit amusing, isn't it, Harry?
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Carry on.
Right, okay, so we know there is some support for the self-employed, but not a lot. If you're a self-employed person, or you're a director shareholder in your own business, at the moment there is very little help out there for us employees. It's very difficult to argue that if we're still running our own business that we're furloughed. So I know some accountants and advisors are trying to help people claim that they're furloughed. I'm not convinced that that's the right approach just yet. The government is still looking to help people like us who are self-employed and running a business if we need it. At the moment, they're only targeting the lowest income individuals affected by COVID-19. So, universal credit, the minimum income floor, has been relaxed, making it easier to apply for those in self isolation. Working tax credits and ESA, employment support allowance, has all been updated to allow the very lowest workers, the very lowest earning income workers, to then go and apply for working tax credits. Now, it won't apply for those that are furloughed because they'll get 80% of their wages through the scheme. I don't think it will apply, certainly not at the moment, for those of us that are self-employed and are direct employees of our own businesses. For one, we're still going and we're still pushing our businesses through. Some of us are going to be able to keep going through and won't need to apply. Some of us will have businesses that have where the income has dropped right out the floor, and we may need to apply for employment support allowance and working tax credits or universal credits. The best thing to do in those instances is not to rely on benefits and get earning. And I know that is easier said than done in this environment, but entrepreneurs are a resourceful bunch. The reason they are entrepreneurs and the reason they're in business in the first place is often because they have a skill to sell. So think about how you can use your talent, use your skill, and serve your customer in a slightly different way to how you have done before. So we know that the government is still in talks with the FSB. We know that the government is aware that the self-employed income situation is very, very difficult. We have clients that run from both ends of the spectrum. So we have clients that earn, 2K a month, but they have savings, and they certainly have enough savings to last them 3, 6, 9, maybe 12 months into the future without having to make a claim on the government. On the other hand, we have clients who have, earn 20K a month. They might have children in private schools. They're higher rate taxpayers, but they only have enough money put aside in liquid assets to cover maybe the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks. They virtually spend as they go. So the diversity amongst the self-employed is enormous, and we're enormously difficult to try and cater for within a single band. So for the majority of us, earning £95 a week SSP or working tax credits, it's just not going to fly, it's not going to cut, and it's certainly not going to help us pay our food bills and our utility bills and our mortgages. So my advice for those that are running their own businesses is to be creative, take your skill set, and what can you do? What can you learn? What can you sell to your customers, to your suppliers? How can you move everybody forward as a self-employed person? So I do think more help will come soon, but not yet for the self-employed. For IR35 and off-payroll workers, any change in legislation has now been deferred to 6th of April 2021 whilst we work through this. So that's the update that we have for the financial measures that we're aware of so far. Has anybody got any queries or any questions? I'm not sure I'm going to see them if they do come up. So let me just pop back to this live screen. Give us some hearts. Can we have some hearts if this was useful? That'd be really lovely. Got lots of thumbs ups and some hearts, but no questions as far as I can tell. So I am going to leave this as it is today. We're going to keep an eye on everything as they happen. We're going to keep on updating this Facebook group and letting you know what's happening as things are happening. And one of the things that Harry and I are planning to do as part of Profit Hackers, this week we'll just be looking mostly at the initiatives, the financial initiatives as they come up and as the government announces them and as change happens to our business. After that, it's business as usual. We need to crack on and we need to start running our businesses and servicing our customers if we're not already doing that. So what we will be doing from this Friday onwards is a weekly masterclass with tools, techniques, anything that we can share with you that we think will help you run your businesses online, work from home, go paperless, whatever we can do to help, generate an income, build an online course, whatever it is that we can do to help you, we will do that. And actually, I can see we've got 27 comments. Oh, fantastic. So most people saying yes, they can hear us. Hi, hello. Harry's loud and clear. Well, that's good. Hiding in plain sight. Fantastic. Amanda, have we been to Costa already? No, I think they are about to close. Went to Costa yesterday. And one of the things that Costa has done is they're not... they're only taking card payments, so there's no physical cash change in hand, so they don't have to touch anything that that we've touched, which is quite a clever idea. Where are we? Cash is king. Yes, it is. Wise words. Thank you, Jamie. No point in spending 3 hours on hold if that time is better spent doing what you do best, generating impact and revenue. Absolutely. And beyond what you're saving on the payment holiday. Yeah, exactly. Leave the cash for people who really need it. And I think the majority of us don't. What forms do you need to get from your employees who are self-isolating? That's a self-isolation form. So Amanda, if your employee is self-isolating because they're sick, they can go to 111 online and get that downloaded from the website. If they're self-isolating because they're helping somebody else or looking after somebody else who's sick, they can go to NHS online and look for the isolation note. I have to say, I think in this environment, it's normally mandatory to collect a sick note from your employee if they're going to have more than 7 days off sick. In this environment, I don't think the government is going to enforce it. It's up to you as an employer if you're going to take people's words for it, and if you're going to, if the measures that are being taken are sensible and are going to keep everybody safe. So Amanda says, I have an employee who has to self-isolate for at least 12 weeks as his high risk. I was just going to pay SSP. Do you now have to cover 80% of his wages? No, you don't. SSP is payable in exactly the same way that SSP would normally be payable, except that historically you would only have to pay from day 4 onwards. If they're genuinely sick and they're self-isolating, then you continue to pay SSP. Will the 80% of wages is for furloughed employees. So this is to help you take furloughed employees and to cover 80% of their wages. So the one thing that we'll look at later, Amanda, is whether or not a furloughed employee will count in your business. It may do, it may not, because the argument is that these are people who you can't pay, not people who are self-isolating. It may be that your employee actually just has to go to the government and register for universal tax credits, put their mortgage on hold, talk to their lenders and their providers. This is a difficult, horrible and uncomfortable situation for absolutely everybody, and there may be limited financial resources in our businesses to help our employees if they have to self-isolate for 12 weeks. And the FSB, says Penny, are lobbying very hard to improve the details of the deal for self-employed. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They are lobbying really hard. There's lots of small business owners and some of the people that we work with who are also lobbying to help small business owners. But the difficulty is, there are some small business owners that could manage comfortably on, sort of £2,000 a month or less, and there are others that would struggle to manage on £10,000 a month or less because their outgoings are very, very different because they live to the means that their business has been able to generate. So it's how do we do something that's fair and equitable for people in those sort of circumstances. Now, it's likely that those higher end earners are in businesses that will allow them to continue trading and will allow them to continue driving an income around that level. Not all. So I can think of one or two of our, very, very high rate taxpayers whose businesses are going to be difficult and are going to have massive impact, massive changeful impact over the next few months in order to survive. Having said that, they've probably got enough cash reserves to manage a year. So, maybe it's not relevant for them. Everybody's different, and I think this is a thing that is really difficult for the FSB, for the government, for us self-employed. We're not all of the same ilk. we're not all in the same boat. So maybe they'll do something like the 80% of furloughed wages for people like us. I don't know. I rather suspect most of us will actually trade out of it and not need to apply in the first place. That's what I'm hoping. So that's it from us at the moment. We'll keep you updated, and thank you so much for joining us. If you think Profit Hackers is going to be useful for other people in your industry, friends, people that you know, it is a paid membership. Harry and I are spending an awful lot of time and effort trying to support people in the group, and this is how we make a living. So I sound like somebody one of the street performers now at the Fringe Festival. This is how we earn our living, so we're not free. But we're doing our best to help everybody. So if you do think that Profit Hackers is potentially going to help other people, then do let them know about us and do invite them here. And if you have a group of people that you think would benefit from a presentation on the financial implications, do let me know, and I'd be happy to present this in your group. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again later. Bye for now.